So where is the middle ground between feminists and MRAs and feminism and the men's rights movement? Because I went back to my very first video today, and that's actually the title of it. That's actually what it was about. And that was always kind of what I hoped this channel would be. It would be about kind of bridging the gap and finding the common ground between MRAs and feminists, to try and, make things better, try and cooperate, work together and try and solve problems instead of trying to just accuse each other. But if you're watching my channel now, you're seeing all the videos I have, like, oh, feminists trying to legalize domestic violence against men, or feminists protesting against a men's shelter, and feminist this and feminist that. And it seems like half of my videos are about anti-feminist and being against feminism. And MRAs always reject the accusation that we're just about being anti-feminist and we don't really care about men's issues, we just want to be against feminism. We always hear that's not true. But I can kind of understand if someone's watching us why that might be easy for them to believe, because we do seem to spend a lot of time complaining about feminists. The problem is, as you watch any of my videos where I talk about feminism, there is a reason why we talk about feminists a lot. And it's because things like, in the UK, feminists trying to change a bill on domestic violence to cut out male victims, those things happen. Or feminists protesting against a men's censor in Toronto, that video I did, those things happen. Feminists attacking us all the time, constantly, happens constantly. It's not something that we're like making up, or it's not some like idea that we have in our head, that we're reading from some right-wing blog website and now we're just kind of regurgitating without thinking about it. It's something that we actually experience on a regular basis. And so there's a reason why it's something that we talk about a lot. Something else is direct debates with feminists on things that should be pretty obvious. Things like conscription, things like pension ages, things like circumcision, things like domestic violence against men. We always find ourselves having debates and arguments with feminists on these things. Well, why? If feminism was for men too, and for equality, and wasn't against us, why did these topics always dissolve into debates? And I'm not saying that feminists have to spend as much time on men as women, except for the fact that feminists say that we shouldn't have a men's rights movement because feminism is for everybody, including men. Okay, well, if that's true, that has to be true. And if that's not true, that's fine. But then at least let the men's rights movement exist. So, when you see videos from me, or posts from MRAs talking about feminists in a negative way, there's a very good chance that I'm not talking about you. Because you might be watching this video right now, and you are a feminist, and that's how you identify yourself as, and that's what you are. And you're not against men. You're not a sexist against men. You don't want to legalize domestic violence against men. And you feel offended by my videos because you think, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Feminists aren't like that. That's very, very true in millions of cases. I think there are millions of people around the world who call themselves feminists who are very good people, who would probably agree with 95% of what I say on this channel. The problem, like in these videos that I'm doing about domestic violence laws in the UK and what feminists are doing there, and I have more videos on that coming soon too. There's a lot of people who, in my opinion, they're not even really feminists. They're narcissists, and they're using feminism as a way to get social influence or social power. But they're just manipulators. They're just using whatever social movement is there at the time. Those are the people who do a lot of things that we object to. Now, they're not all, because I don't want to say that, oh, most feminists are perfect, because that's not true. But I do think a lot of the problem, a lot of the more radical feminist figures and political figures and organizations, they're not really doing what they're doing because they believe in equality. They're doing what they're doing because it's about personal gain and political power and social influence, and they're just using feminism, but really they couldn't care less about it. Some of them. Other times I do think that people are brainwashed or they're misled by things that are just not quite true. And a big example would be people who are like against the men's rights movement because they think, oh, they're like racists, alt-right, Nazis, white supremacists, all that kind of thing, which is something that I still hear. If I go anywhere in LA, I do do this. Like if I'm at a bar, not so much now because of lockdown, but if I'm at a bar or a party and I bring up that I'm an MRA, no matter how casually I say it, no matter how chill like we've all been for the last, let's say, hour and a half or whatever it is, people like stop and like they look at me, and I can tell that they read an article like that or like this, and that's the image they have, and they ask me, are you a Nazi? Are you a white supremacist? But I find that, and I've done a video on this before, it's about the presentation. Like it's about how you come across and like how you say it. Because when I tell people I'm an MRA and I use the label, I get a mostly negative reaction. But if I just talk about like one of the issues or the beliefs, you know, like just some of the ideas that MRAs have, people mostly agree. Like if I don't use the label of MRA, people tend to have a much more positive reaction. Because it's the label, it's the association, it's the image that they have that they don't like. And I think that's why the way you come across, like trying to find that middle ground is so important. You know, and that's why I regret, you know, like all the times in the past, and everyone's done this. Anyone who's involved in like politics or like social media, you know, you're on Reddit or you're on YouTube and you get in some dumb argument with someone, you know, and it's some long debate, you know, and it's just like, instead of trying to just calmly explain to this person, you know, what you think the facts are, you know, it becomes like an argument or like a debate, like a me versus you kind of thing, you know, and it's a very easy kind of trap to like fall into. And I think that's kind of why people don't even think there's a middle ground there anymore, when in fact I think that there is. And it's because we're so kind of locked into this mentality of we have to win and be right, you know, and your kind of emotions take over. And the thing is, it's understandable to like feel, you know, a justified anger about things that are happening in the world. Like when people say, oh, if you're angry, that means you're losing the debate, I think that's total bull, because there are plenty of things that are worth being angry about. I mean, 100%, you know, but it can be difficult to try and just kind of stay calm, stay rational, and just sort of talk to people. But I do think that's the best way to do it. But at the same time, yes, I do make those videos that are critical of feminists, or at least some feminists, and some of the things that some of the feminists do, because it does need to be said, and it is happening in the real world to real people. So where does that kind of leave me, you know, trying to find this middle ground? You know, it's a complicated thing, because like on one hand, yes, like I do want to find that middle ground, but on the other hand, I have to say the things that I'm saying because those things are actually happening and they're actually hurting people.